I'm Matt Gelka in Washington, where a handful of Republicans needed some convincing on the One Big Beautiful Bill, and there was plenty of political drama leading up to a final vote.
The motion is adopted.
The One Big Beautiful Bill in Congress ended up meeting the July 4th deadline, but leading up to it, House Republicans worked all night to try and flip members of their own party who had concerns about the tax and spending plan. 5 GOP holdouts had opposed advancing the bill to a final vote, with concerns centering around spending and how much the bill adds to the national debt. The president piled on via Truth Social, writing in part just after midnight, "What are the Republicans waiting for? What are you trying to prove? MAGA is not happy, and it's costing you votes." He also made 1 a.m. phone calls.
The president's very engaged. He was very helpful in the process. He helped answer questions and articulate his vision and what this bill will mean for the country and his agenda and how urgent it is for us to get it done. So I think it was very helpful. I'm really appreciative of his leadership.
The pressure campaign worked, and enough Republicans got in line to advance the bill for a final vote.
The resolution is adopted,
including Kentucky's Thomas Massie, a fiscal hawk who said he'd support advancing it if Trump stopped publicly attacking him, according to The Hill. He ultimately was a no on the final bill.
I think what those holdouts were doing was exactly what we were all doing. We are advocating for our district. I think, what was it, 3 in the morning? After having several conversations with each other and the president, we've concluded that this is the best, most conservative bill that we can put on the floor to pass for the American people.
Democrats said they were united in opposition to the bill, with an all-day, record-breaking filibuster from House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries used as a last-ditch effort to further delay the final vote.
It's a crime scene going after the health and the safety and the well-being of the American people. And, Mr. Speaker, we want no part of it.
Some conservatives with concerns about the bill said they held out as long as they could to push for changes. The House, however, did not make any formal changes to the bill the Senate sent to them. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
Main criticisms of President Trump's big beautiful bill is the amount it could add to the national debt. Emma Withrow from the Fact Check team joining us now. As you know, it touched the finish line today.
Finally,
break down the current numbers in the trillions and also the projections.
Yeah, so at this point, we're around $37 trillion in debt, and that really just continues to grow by the day. So the U.S. government's also projected to spend $892 billion just on interest payments for the national debt in 2025. So that adds up to about $2.4 billion per day just in interest, which is insane.
Astronomical.
Yeah.
How much would be added to the national debt according to the research that you reviewed?
Yeah, so the Cato Institute, they put together an analysis on this, and they found that it could add as much as $6 trillion to our national debt when you factor in what they're calling unrealistic assumptions about economic growth, congressional extensions of tax giveaways or delays, and then also the fiscal impact that mass deportations could have on our economy.
Emma, thank you so much. Absolutely. And as we look forward, we got to look back. Emma's going to join us in a few minutes to explain how we got here and why America is in so much debt. Today, the national debt is nearing $37 trillion, and the big beautiful bill could add another $4 to $6 trillion according to some estimates. But how did we get here? Emma Withrow from the Fact Check team joining us now. And I know you dug into the history of our national debt. Give us some of the notable areas of spending over the years behind that debt.
Yeah, I mean, if it makes anyone feel better, we've really been in debt since the U.S. Revolutionary War. But in the last few decades, the debt has really just started exploding. Big events like the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, the 2008 financial crash, and then also the COVID pandemic, that forced the government to spend a lot more money very fast. So between 2019 and 2021, government spending jumped by about 50%, mostly because of COVID. Things like tax cuts, stimulus checks, increased spending, and also a drop in tax revenue from job losses all played a role in driving the debt higher, and that's all according to the U.S. Treasury.
We keep on hearing it's going to get higher, it's going to get higher.
Yeah.
What are the projections saying? How much more?
Yeah, so I looked into a couple of different analyses of this. And so for starters, the bill could add $5 trillion to the national debt. But aside from that, according to the Congressional Budget Office, the national debt's also expected to exceed its record high in just 4 years. Right after World War II, the U.S. hit an all-time high of 106%, meaning that we owed more money than the entire economy produced in a year. So the CBO projects the debt's going to be even higher come 2035, reaching around 118% GDP. So fingers crossed changes are made before we get to that point.
Yeah, GOP in celebration mode with this bill today, of course. Emma, thank you.
Thanks.
For more on this fact check team topic, including links to their sources, scan that QR code on your screen or visit thenationaldesk.com. The one big beautiful bill is now law. One key provision is no tax on tips. The fact check team's Janae Bowens is joining us to discuss. So first of all, just break down the numbers and tell us who this applies to.
Yeah, Dee Dee, so this is a temporary tax deduction on tips through 2028. Workers like servers can deduct up to $25,000 worth of tips, but it will be less for those who make more than $150,000 per year.
So as we look at the averages, how much money will the tipped worker save?
Right, so according to the Budget Lab, the average family that qualifies would save about $1,700 a year. Now, for the lowest earners, that number drops to around $200.
And some of the research that you reviewed points out that not everyone benefits, right?
Exactly. So according to the Budget Lab, it shows about 37% of tipped workers don't make enough to pay federal income tax, so they wouldn't benefit at all. And this doesn't apply to payroll taxes, which are still in effect. Some restaurant advocates argue the bill leaves out back of house staff and doesn't cover service charges, making it unfair and confusing.
All right, Janae, thank you so much. Janae will join us in a few minutes to discuss how this will all impact federal revenue. One of President Trump's key campaign promises, no taxes on tips, was signed into law under his big, beautiful bill. The average family that qualifies is going to save around $1,700 a year. Janae Bowens from the Fact Check team joining us now to discuss this further. The question, though, here remains, Janae, how will this all impact federal revenue?
Yeah, Dee Dee, so experts from the Tax Policy Center estimate that exempting tips from income tax will reduce federal revenue by $6.5 billion in 2025.
And it really just sounds like a drop in the bucket compared to how much is brought in income taxes each and every year.
Exactly. So far in 2025, the federal government has brought in $1.82 trillion solely from individual income taxes and $298 billion in corporate income taxes.
Break down also the benefits for overtime workers. This also impacts them.
Right, so all of the overtime hours they work, they won't be taxed on. Now, they're able to make up to $12,500 untaxed, but it'll be less for workers who make more than $150,000.
All right, Janae, thank you. If you want another look at the numbers for more on this Fact Check team topic, including links to their sources, scan that QR code or visit thenationaldesk.com.
President Trump delivering on many of his campaign promises in just his first 6 months in office, including the big, beautiful bill, which codified the 2017 tax cuts and also boosts spending on the border, the military, and on energy. Republican National Committee Chair Michael Watley joining us this morning to discuss. Good morning to you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
It's good to be on with you, Jan.
Big victory for the GOP. You were there, I saw at the White House, celebrating the signing of the bill as well as America's birthday. What does this say about the party and of the leadership of Donald Trump?
Well, look, this party is completely unified behind the president and his agenda, which is the America First agenda. And the fact that we were able to get this bill done and complement what he's doing within the administration means that our economy is going to be stronger and stronger and stronger, that every American family, every American community is going to be in a position to do better. And that's really what we fought for and what we won over in 2024.
And Chairman, while Republican Congress members are taking this victory lap, you know, Democratic members are on their own tour in their districts criticizing measures in the bill, specifically on Medicaid and on SNAP. How will this bill reduce waste and abuse of programs like Medicaid and SNAP for low-income families?
Yeah, look, what we're going to do is strengthen those programs by taking people off that should not be on it. We do not need illegal aliens. We do not need waste, fraud, and abuse in these programs. And by setting it up so that we are really, truly protecting America's most vulnerable, we're going to strengthen these programs for everybody that is involved.
I want to read to you an article that I saw yesterday on Axios about Democratic members of Congress facing demands from their constituents to break the rules and, quote, fight dirty. So I want to quote some of this article for you, and I'll get your reaction. A House Democrat told Axios that, quote, the grassroots wants more. Some of them have suggested what we really need to do is be willing to get shot when visiting ICE facilities on federal agencies. Another Democratic lawmaker said constituents have told them civility isn't working and to prepare for violence to fight to protect our democracy. And yet another House Democrat told Axios, what I have seen is a demand that we get ourselves arrested intentionally or allow ourselves to be victims of violence. And a lot of times that's coming from economically very secure white people. What do you make of this, Chairman?
I think it's frightening. I think the fact that we are seeing this type of rhetoric right now, mostly coming from Democrat leaders, is inciting the type of violence that we're seeing in Texas. We had, a shooting. We had another group that was arrested for an attempted shooting. The violence that is coming right now is being spurred on by the left. We saw it out in California, where you had Karen Bass, you had Governor Newsom, and others who are out there inciting these riots in California, all across the country right now. The language needs to be toned down. The rhetoric needs to be toned down. We do not need these exhortations towards violence, because what they're going to do is create violence. They're going to get people hurt, including our officers. And we need to back the blue right now, and we need to enforce the laws all across this country.
And finally, I know you're a big proponent of election integrity. I did see your latest tweet regarding mail-in ballots in Kansas and a lawsuit that was filed there. What's the situation, and what's the RNC doing about it?
Yeah, Kansas is one of many states right now that accept ballots that come in after Election Day through the mail. And we think that Election Day means Election Day. We want to make sure that we have basic protections for mail-in ballots, including that they come in on Election Day. We also want signature requirements and witness requirements, and we want them in mailboxes, not drop boxes. Having the protections for mail-in ballots is one of critical things that we're pushing on, along with voter ID, making sure that only American citizens can vote, and making sure that states are cleaning up their voter rolls.
Yeah, specifically in Kansas, the situation is there is a lawsuit that's being filed. By whom?
By us, the RNC and the Kansas GOP, and we're fighting that lawsuit out there to protect the Kansas law, which requires that those ballots need to be in by Election Day.
All right. Chairman of the RNC, Michael Watley, we appreciate you joining us this morning.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.